Gambia receives first batch of COVID-19 vaccines through the COVAX facility. The UN High Commissioner for Refugees plans to relocate Central African refugees to safer locations. And more witnesses continue to testify before Gambia's Truth Commission on the alleged massacre of the West African migrants. Well, these and more coming your way on the News Desk. Hello there, this is Africa TV. Many thanks for joining us. I am Amadou Kante. Now the news in details. Now, the Gambia has on Tuesday received 36,000 doses of COVID-19 vaccines through the COVAX initiative. COVAX is the only global initiative that is working with governments and manufacturers to ensure equitable access to COVID-19 vaccines for both higher and low-income countries. Mariama Cham has more details of that in this report.
After months of struggles to get a vaccine to contain the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic which ravaged the world with millions of deaths, the Gambia has finally received its shipment of 36,000 COVID-19 vaccine doses through WHO's COVAX initiative. COVAX is a global initiative aimed at equitable access to COVID-19 vaccines, led by the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization, the World Health Organization, the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovations, and others. The vaccination is expected to commence in the next coming weeks, with frontline healthcare workers and vulnerable groups among the first groups to receive jabs in the Gambia. The imported vaccines is a 2-dose vaccine which should be taken twice between 7 to 8 days intervals. Speaking at the handing over of the vaccines, the Minister of Health, Dr. Ahmadullah Samate, says the vaccination will first target prioritized groups including the elderly.
COVAX will provide vaccines for 20% of the population of the Gambia. The allocation will be able to vaccinate all those who are aged 40 years and above, including priority groups. This summing up to over 480,000 Gambians as projected in the 2013 census.
The WHO country representative, Dr. Turini, said Gambia is among the countries that fulfill the requirements to have access to the vaccines. Dr. Turini says COVAX is working for safe distribution of the vaccines to end the virus globally.
And the most important aim at the end of doing all this is to end the acute phase of the pandemic, meaning the burden on the health service, the burden on the whole system will be relieved. If we have less people who are getting severe disease, we don't have to admit many people in the health facilities. If we don't do that, we'll be able to take care of others with other conditions of essential health services. And that if we do that, we'll be able to rebuild the economy very quickly.
All right, we apologize for
listen
that
to it
breakdown.
and to
We
be
will,
able to
bring you,
really absorb
more
the information.
Details of that report in our subsequent news editions. Now, the Chief Inspector or Investigator of the Independent International Commission of Inquiry on Syria, Paulo Sergio Panero, at a high-level panel on the human rights situation, says victims' demands for justice and accountability are a central component of any durable peace. He says justice could be delayed, but it must come in all its forms. Fatma Kasim reports.
Tens of thousands civilians are still missing after being detained arbitrarily during 10 years of civil war in Syria. Thousands more have been tortured or killed in custody, according to a new report detailing alleged war crimes and crimes against humanity by all parties. Chief investigator on Syria, Polio Sergio Pinheiro, says arbitrary detention must end and that the government and other parties subjected to disappearances must take comprehensive steps to revealing the fate of the disappeared.
The restorative justice measures that Syrians have called for time and again cannot be relegated to a second tier of justice. More must be done to free the arbitrarily detained, locate and identify the missing, restore vital civil documentation, safeguard human rights in relation to housing, land and property, among other issues.
About 4.8 million people in Syria get U.S. humanitarian aid, as well as over 5 million refugees from Syria in the region. The U.S. Ambassador Linda Thomas-Greenfield says the United States stands with Syrian people in supporting a political solution. Girls and boys as young as 11 are victims of unimaginable suffering, including rape, and Ambassador Thomas-Greenfield says role of Syrian women in peace and security process is vital agenda.
And we cannot emphasize enough the role of Syrian women in this process and the importance of implementing Resolution 1325 and the Women, Peace and Security Agenda. It is time for the Syrian people, especially Syrian women, to be heard. And it is time for us to reach a real political solution. This is the only way to bring sustainable peace, stability, and security to the Syrian people.
The 2011 uprising against President Bashar al-Assad of Syria almost 10 years ago turned into a full-scale civil war. This pro-democracy demonstration erupted in the southern city of Tehran, inspired the Arab Spring in neighboring countries. The conflict has left over 360,000 people dead, devastated cities, and drawn.
The investigator, of course, of the human rights violations in Syria, demanding for justice for the victims. Now, the street of the Iraqi city of Najaf has been adorned by both Iraqi and Vatican flags ahead of the Pope Francis' first ever papal visit to the country, slated for next week. The Pope's three-day visit to the country is expected to begin on the 5th of March, with his Najaf visit scheduled for 6 March, where he is expected to meet with Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Ali al-Husseini al-Sistani. Omar Ahmad Tule tells us more of that in this report.
The 84-year-old Pope Francis hoped to make a trip to Iraq in 2020, but his plans were halted by security concerns and the coronavirus pandemic. The governor of Najaf, Luay Al-Yassir, says they are prepared for the Pope's visit and have put measures in place to make sure the Pope's visit goes in an orderly manner.
بدأت تزيين الشوارع بالأعلام العراقية وكذلك أعلام الفاتيكان.
The streets began to be decorated with Iraqi flags and Vatican flags, and also after 2 days, there will be billboards posted in a regular and decent manner welcoming the guests, in addition to banners containing quotes of Imam Ali on the right to humanity. We have conducted a large organizational case and a great situation. We thank God for these preparations. Valuable gifts will be presented to His Holiness too. At the same time, there will be a surprise in terms of organization.
One of the aims of the trip is to comfort Christians who, amid wars and have been forced to flee from Iraq and other Middle Eastern countries. Jamal Kamel says the Pope's visit will have economic benefits for the country and will also pave ways to end the sectarian and religious conflicts.
The visit of the Pope of the Vatican has economic, social, political, and religious dimensions. I believe that these dimensions have a positive effect on Iraq as a country and on Najaf as a governorate. For me, such a visit as such people have a positive impact, especially meeting Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Ali al-Husseini al-Sistani. With the personality of the Pope, there will certainly be changes, and there will be no sectarianism, no interreligious discord. And as you can see that the Najafi society receive all sects and religion.
Apart from Najaf, the Pope is expected to visit Baghdad, Ur, Erbil, Mosul, and Karagoz. Iraq is home to many different Eastern Rite churches, both Catholic and Orthodox. Iraq's small Christian population of several hundred thousand suffered particular hardships when Islamic State militants controlled large parts of the country between 2014 and 2017. Pope John Paul II tried to visit Iraq in 2000, but an agreement with then Iraqi leader Saddam Hussein could not be reached. Pope Francis will be the first pope to make a historic visit to Iraq. For iAfrica TV, I am Omar Ahmad Toure.
Residents of Najaf looking forward to the Pope's first ever visit to the city in Iraq. And from the report there by Omar Ahmad Toure, we'll now take a break and come back shortly with the rest of the story. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
The pride we take in our brand, the work we put into constantly change the landscape and elevate real estate in the Gambia, it's compared to none. From inception, our goal was to add value to the beautiful Gambian landscape. That's why we are proud innovators of community estates. Kololi Sands is an exceptional piece of work, tailored for ultimate convenience and luxury, to bring you an element of finesse that is rare but unique in its own. This is also our pride and joy, and we welcome you to the exquisite beauty right here in Kololi and right here on the waterfront. Kololi Sands, feel the ocean breeze at your doorstep.
Welcome back and thanks for joining us. Now to matters of the TRC, because Kahinde Anagame, the elder brother of Paul Anagame, one of the West African migrants who was killed in the Gambia in July 2005, testifies at the Truth Commission on Tuesday. According to Mr. Anagame, Paul left Nigeria sometime in 2003 to Senegal, where he was planning to travel to Europe via the Mediterranean Sea. Amin Dao has the rest of that story in this report.
Kehinde Anagame says his brother Paul was 28 when he left Nigeria for Senegal sometime in 2003 to embark on a backway journey to Europe by sea. The witness says he has been communicating with his brother on email and phone, but the communication abruptly stopped. Kehinde says Paul's friend in Senegal told him that Paul and the other migrants were killed by the Gambian security forces.
What did he say to you that he had? Yeah, he mentioned that Paul and was in the company of some West Africans. They had left Senegal via a boat on their way to connect a ship. But somehow between the ship and before they could get to the ship, they were apprehended by Gambian security forces. And they were killed.
The witness tells the commission that he remained in limbo for years until the killing of the migrants received international attention in recent years. Anagame says the Gambia government's denial of this killing incident was disheartening and blatant.
How did it feel when you received this material? I cried. How did your family feel? La famille lumengele dimbalo kita nyadile. It's a trauma. Describe it. Devastating. Exactly. It's so painful to hear what happened, coupled with the fact that there was nobody
I mean, the cops, we couldn't see the cops. There was denial.
Balanta.
How do you know there was denial?
Because from what I gathered, like from what I gathered, the Gambian government was saying there was nothing like that happened. So, to me, there was no news, nothing.
The 43-year-old Nigerian says he wants to see the perpetrators of this heinous crime brought to justice. On February 25th, a former head of operations at the defunct NIA presented a list of 51 migrants to the Truth Commission, and it was the first time an official list of the arrested migrants has been produced. Former squad members, the junglers, testified before the Truth Commission that they and 12 other junglers had carried out the killings on order. Reporting for Our Africa News, I am Amindao.
More witnesses continue to appear before the Truth Commission to testify on the alleged killing of the West African migrants in the Gambia. Finally, though, for now, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees is planning to relocate thousands of Central African refugees living in the makeshift shelters on the border with Democratic Republic of Congo. But the move is to ensure that the refugees are in a safer place where they can access humanitarian assistance. Fatmata Kasim again in this report.
Authorities in the Democratic Republic of Congo estimate that 92,000 refugees arrived from the Central African Republic following last year's post-election violence in the country. Most Central African refugees are living along riverbank areas with limited or no access to water and food. However, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees have signed an agreement with DRC's National Commission to provide a suitable condition for over 10,000 refugees in Modal village. At this site, the UNHCR is setting up a new water and sanitation facilities as well as expanding the education facilities for the refugees. UNHCR and CR are also expected to prepare 4 recollection sites for some 35,000 refugees to live alongside local communities and grow their own crops as well as to benefit from other services. UNHCR is reinforcing existing services and infrastructure which would struggle to cope with the sudden increase in new arrivals. Nearly 1/3 of the Central African Republic's population of 4.7 million have been forced to flee after years of recurring conflict. UN Refugee Agency is however calling for an immediate end to all forms of violence in the Central African Republic as almost 60,000 refugees are forced to seek help in neighboring countries since December last year. Most of the refugees have fled to Democratic Republic of Congo for humanitarian assistance. For iAfrica TV, I'm Omar Ahmad Toure.
Very well. Omar Ahmad Toure there reporting, and instead of Fatmata Kasim, as I initially mentioned, and I apologize for that. But finally, that brings us to the end of this news desk edition. But for more details on this and other stories, you can also visit on our website on iAfrica.tv. Sohna Tunkra will be here at 17:30 GMT, 5:30 local time for the World Today News Bulletin. But for now, though, many thanks for the pleasure of your company. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, and bye for now.
Wakawel mu campagne lete Africa tiliji ka fonninkel tanka mantoro la